Howdy folks, welcome to Bullish on Farming. Today's December 3rd and it feels like the calm after the storm. Nice and quiet, sun's been shining past couple days, melting down some of that snow that just accumulated minute after minute. We got a good 80 centimeters over 3 days. And we didn't see the sun in that time, and it was snow squalls, so blistering winds. It was a rough one. You know, it's one thing to have the first snowfall of the year. It's another thing to have an Arctic tundra-like storm come through with the first snowfall of the year. And I'll be the first to say that I was cocky heading into it. I am happy that we grazed into the first snowfall, because as you can see, the cows, they know that grazing is what they should be doing. And when I say should be doing, I don't mean that they're grazing grass that shouldn't be grazed. I mean, we're standing right now on a stockpiled field that has 1 foot to 2 feet of well-rested pasture. And because they've grazed into the first snowfall, they have instinctually reacted to their environment, and they understand that they should continue foraging. However, I didn't bring out a bale until yesterday. So these cows endured a solid 72 hours with no hay supplementation. And I did start to notice 2 of our older girls start to decline in body condition. Not so terribly that it went too far. This is one of them. Okay. I came in the morning and I noticed that her rumen was sunken in. And I noticed that she started getting leaner in the rear hip. Now remember, all these cows have a calf suckling on them. You know, we have some steers and heifers in here. This is a steer, and he's looking good. You know, he's not hurting at all. But a couple of our older mums nursing their calf while going through 72 hours of adverse weather. That made it quite challenging for them to graze through the snow. By putting them to the test, I was able to see who are our performers and who doesn't really stand up to more of a year-round grazing style. This girl, she's our tallest, largest framed Hereford. She's not hurting a bit. You know, she's 3 or 4 years old, and she has, although she's a larger framed animal, she has no trouble maintaining condition and raising a calf, especially here in Canada, where, you know, starting December we got hit with huge snowfall, and, you know, not just snowfall, blistering wind. So if I could go back in time, what I would have done was, with the weather warning, right away just put out a couple bales for supplementation, just to help with you know, the adverse weather condition that was a stark, drastic change compared to what the cows were experiencing before. Of course, we can't go back in time, but you know, I gave them some tough love, and all of the cattle except for 2 were hurting. And again, when I say hurting, I mean just showing signs of decline, which could have continued if perhaps I didn't add a bale. But of course, the worst 72 hours is behind us, and now I put out a bale and the cows are choosing to graze, and they've gone after the hay. But you know, I was a little late on offering the supplementation of hay. This is the other older girl. She's about 8 years old. She's an Angus, and you know, she's not super tall, but she's definitely around 1,500 pounds. With the calf nursing on her, for her to get the caloric intake, for her to maintain body condition, not to mention that because she's older, she may have a couple less teeth. Her foraging, ability to forage may not be up to snuff like the others. And so, same thing, I noticed, you know, the rumen back there was sunken in, and although she had access to water, I didn't see the cattle travel back much. I did start to notice the skin start to wrap around her structure a bit more than usual. And when you move your cows every day, you know how your cows look and how they perform. And I started to sense that she was becoming somewhat dehydrated. Because she's not in a barn with a water trough and protected and nice and easy breezy, not having to deal with the elements, you know, it was a bit tougher on her to keep up. And that doesn't mean that, you know, I'm gonna baby her, but I'm gonna be mindful of her, and she's definitely on a list with regards to when we're thinking about our future and the type of cattle we want on the farm. Now, obviously, there's different ways to monitor dehydration, and you know, her eyes weren't sunken into her eyelids, which is a major sign of dehydration. Another one is stool, and you can see that this steer here right now just had a dropping. That doesn't look like dehydrated manure. So it's not that these cattle have been without. There are just certain animals that are performing better, and your younger stock is usually not going to budge if they're healthy stock in their conditioning, because they're young, full of vitality, have all their teeth, have foraging vigor, and of course the young calves are nursing off the mom, so anything they're not getting from foraging, they're getting from nursing. But then, you know, there's two sides of the coin, and a mom has to feed that calf, and you have to monitor her, because unless we want that calf to be early weaned, we want her to continue producing milk up until she weans that calf naturally, which we find is somewhere around 10 months. Here's a first time mom. She's got a calf on her, and she looks good. Another mom here. She's looking good, not hurting. You know, it's not like spring, summer when they're grazing and super plump and bloaty because they're, you know, getting just the best forage quality. It's that prime time of the year. But if you see what this cow's eating, it's green, vibrant, lush feed. And in the previous video, you know, I caught them at some point when they would pull up the grass. Seems like that girl over there is getting some big bites. Like I say, it's well-rested pasture, 1 foot to 2 feet of grass. See, when I'm seeing stool like that, that's starting to show signs a bit of, I wouldn't call it dehydration, but the moisture intake on that animal is not optimal. And so you're starting to see kind of the lines and the ribbing and the creasing in the manure. It doesn't fall like a nice loose patty. Not too loose, of course, but that's too firm. I say too firm, I don't mean too firm. It's just part of being in the winter. The animals, you know, they go through their different natural adjustment periods. And so, you know, you don't have to worry if you start to see stool that doesn't look like it did in July, August, September. But it is another way that you can monitor. You know, when I look out and I see my cows foraging like this makes me feel good, especially since we have bales of hay out in the field, because they're choosing to graze. They're choosing to forage vegetation rooted in soil. And if I come out and it seems like everyone, all their rumens are full, and their body condition is at a place where we're happy with, then that just tells me that what they're getting is enough. And we do have a trace mineral block that's all the way by the water. They got a long commute to the creek. You know, they got to go through that field across the farm. You know, I don't know how long it is, but it's probably a good 400, 500 yards. And that's all right. We want to keep them active. We want to keep them moving. We want to keep them in a foraging rhythm. We want them to work for their food as they would, as they did when they evolved over millennia. We don't want immobile cows being spoon-fed, getting fat just for the sake of getting fat. We want them to live the spirit of their nature and the fullness of life. That requires them to deal with the elements and instinctually react to their environment. Not sit in a place where they don't have to instinctually react to their environment and lose their self-preservation qualities. Remember, we run a 100% grass-fed, grass-finished program, and we aim to keep our animals on the land as many months out of the year as possible. So for a program like that, you don't want spoon-fed cattle like you get in the feedlot that just stand, poop where they stand and eat where they stand. We want animals moving around, pooping on the move, eating on the move, and allowing nature to recycle their waste naturally. And that's how we integrate our feeding program with our waste management program, which is really our fertilization program. And we got a couple calves around the bales. Serves well for bedding. And so, you know, when we have those sub-zero nights, they have somewhere that's drier to lay. That's always been the benefit of bale grazing. And it eliminates your straw bale altogether because the recently consumed bale becomes bedding. And yeah, just doing a quick update on the cattle. I know it's very typical for people to just put their hay in the barn when their cows in the barn when they see snow on the forecast. But for those of you who are interested in similar things like we're doing here, we're happy to share it. And we're definitely not the epitome of perfection. We're learning every day, and Lord knows I make mistakes. But one thing that we do always is listen to the land and the animals, and we're not scared of seasons. We embrace the seasons, and we allow the animals the opportunity to thrive through good, what we intend to do as good management. And don't get me wrong, we got a barn. We got a big old barn over there. And I could put the animals in if I'd like. And it's always good to know that if I need to, I can. But we're choosing to keep them out here. And so excited to head to our next field. We'll see when that is. Plenty of feed yet on the ground here. And I'm hoping that hay consumption is really just going to be at 50% to 40% of normal because they'll be foraging so much from the pasture. And the other field actually has a pond for a natural permanent water source. And the creek suits fine all the way over there. It's fine. We got electric fencing, no big deal. Cows don't want to leave if they have everything they need within the fences. But we really had the next section in mind for the winter program. And so as we get closer to January, it's likely that we'll migrate over there. If the snow keeps up, you know, it's just day by day. Checking cows' body condition, checking if their rumens are full, monitoring their health, seeing how they're doing. And us feeding hay will be determined by our evaluation of that. Once it looks like the cows aren't getting enough, then, you know, hay starts to become the primary source of feed. But we'll let the animals tell us when that is time to do so. So anyways, folks, I'd like to say thanks for stopping by and God bless you all. We'll see you on the next one.